People always say that music was way better back in their day. The older you get, the more true the statement becomes. I've always felt so disconnected with my generation of music, and it's granted me perspective on the age-old question. Is music getting worse? If you want the short answer, then it's not really. I feel like music is one of the most subjective out of all the mediums of art, and that just makes it about impossible to say that this guy's music is better than that guy's music. It's all just different. You see, there are so many aspects that make a music, but I'll just focus on the 5 that I think are the most important. Vibes, dynamics, harmony, groove, and emotional gravity. The thing with music is that it's very hard to try and push all these stats to the max. So what tends to happen is that each generation of music hones in on 2 or 3 of these aspects. For the sake of the video, I won't go into an in-depth music history lesson from conception to now, because that would be a very long video and a lot of work for me. Instead, I'll give you a short rundown of music starting from the classical era to now. I'm not a music historian, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. Classical music started in the 5th century and maxed out its specs on specifically harmony, dynamics, and emotional gravity. Its groove stats and vibe stats are on the lower side compared to the rest of the eras. They had some bona fide superstars though, such as Deaf Guy, the Kid Boy Genius, My Glorious King, This Guy, That Guy, the Labrana Pianist. You get the point. The classical era produced a ton of music and had just as many composers who all produced at least one absolute hit. It's a little unfair just because classical music had so much more time to develop than the other eras, but it is what it is. Let's listen to something from this era, shall we? This piece is called Kingdom of Predators. In my opinion, the superpower that classical music possesses is the ability to portray the deepest and strongest emotions humans are capable of feeling. Feelings like love, grief, life, and death. This song you're listening to was actually the OST of one of my favorite animes, Hunter x Hunter, and it plays during the darkest and grimmest arc of the show. This piece directly reflects the human and chimera ants' will to survive. To have all of these complex themes and ideas be portrayed just through music is the magic for me. It's hard to put into words the feelings you feel when you listen to this type of music. It makes sense to me why this music is considered timeless. Now, if you're a groove enjoyer and don't really care about fancy harmony, then this music probably isn't for you. This type of music can also be a little bit of a slow burn, and most pieces are really long. Not so great for non-existent attention spans. Jazz, baby. You know it for that swing and Frank Sinatra, ooh, that sweet Frank Sinatra. But we musicians, note for the good old cocaine and heroin. I'm categorizing to start from the early 19th century and onward. This era also had some great musicians, which I will put up here. But all you really need to know is the one and only Oscar Peterson, the best jazz pianist of all time. Totally not subjective, This is an objective opinion. This era maxed out its specs on a whole lot of areas. Fully maxed harmony, fully maxed groove, fully maxed aesthetics, fully maxed dynamics, and fully maxed emotional gravity. I know I said when I brought up the chart with all the 5 pillars that each area kind of hones in on 2 or 3, but I lied. Kind of. If you understand jazz and you studied it and you play it, you can kind of get to the point where the pillars are all maxed out. But for regular people, you know, like maybe you watching, the stat sheet for jazz would look a lot more like this. The only exception is that if it's Christmas, you're listening to Charlie Brown, you're listening to Michael Bublé, or you're listening to Frank Sinatra. This is where jazz gets its seasonal buff. Wintertime, it's fully maxed. Any other time though, not so much. I think the biggest issue for newer people listening to jazz is that it's not digestible. Harmonies can sometimes be too crazy, and the groove may be super intricate. Complexity does not lead to popularity. It's quite the opposite. This brings us all back to the present, where the Swifties are feeling permanently 22 and sipping their espressos. I don't want to use the term pop music because it really just means whatever the most popular music was at the time, but there's no better term that I can think of, so I'm gonna use it. Popular music, or today's music, capped out its specs on groove, emotional gravity, depending on the song, it's very subjective, and vibe. It stuck a big fat one to the rest of the stats. This type of music is really digestible for most people. That's why it's so poppin'. I feel like there's no need to even say the people who made this generation what it is, because you guys already know them. Now this is the thing I wanted to talk about. I actually made this observation a while ago, and it actually led me to creating this whole video. What I'm seeing is that the current generation of musicians are hyper fixated on sound textures. What does that even mean? Simply put, manipulating the already existing sound waves to create something entirely new. An example of this would be like putting chorus on a vocal, or reversing the sound of wind blowing on a tree. Another example is distorting a guitar. This is such an unprecedented time where technology has advanced far enough where musicians have not exhausted the amount of sounds that can be digitally created. Before we were limited, Mozart only had so many sounds to work with, as did the jazz musicians. Now the possibilities for sounds are endless. This is the main reason why so many people are saying that the music sounds the same. Because, honestly, they're right. Harmonically speaking, the chord structure, the drum patterns, even sometimes the melodies are identical. The difference lies in the sounds they choose to make their music. Harmony is tossed to the side, as is dynamics, because we have now unlocked a new way to make something sound fresh. Nowadays, people listen to music for the vibes, not the music really. And this is why it works so well in this generation. The music captures the listener's attention quickly and caters to our baby attention span. All this to say that music is not getting worse. It's just that the popular music of our generation is neglecting certain aspects of music that older people may feel are essential. Although you may feel a certain way about today's music, you'll never be able to prove it without bias. So let's just let this generation enjoy what's going on. Thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your day.